This is TF15 News. I am Ante Ungberg and today is headline news. Bomb attack in Mogadishu. ISIS in the Philippines. US-Canadian couple kidnapped in Pakistan. NFL protests continue. Protest against the Irish abortion law. Hello, good day. Thanks for joining us on TF15 News. A bomb attack in the Somali capital of Mogadishu took place on Saturday and is now believed to have killed more than 300 people. This makes the attack the deadliest in the history of the Somali. According to sources, the bomb detonated inside a truck filled with explosives in the center of Mogadishu, close to a hotel. Who is responsible for the attack is still unclear, but the Somali authorities accuses the terrorist group Al-Shabaab to be guilty for the attack. The group, who is confirmed part of Al-Qaeda, has been responsible for several attacks in the country, but still they haven't confirmed any involvement in the current attack. But now over to our correspondent Henk Hugendijk in the Philippines.
While the rains come and go, the flow of wounded into a military hospital in the north of the island does not. It's been like this for a month, since ISIS-aligned fighters stormed the northern parts of Marawi, capturing key government buildings and setting fire to churches and schools. In the weeks that followed, the armed forces of the Philippines have slowly clawed back ground in the city. But a stubborn remnant of around 100 fighters clings to a handful of inner-city neighborhoods, and despite a sustained and some argue indiscriminate campaign of government airstrikes, reducing much of the city to dust. The crisis in Marawi has forced almost 500,000 to flee the city and the surrounding areas, creating a humanitarian crisis the government is struggling to contain. Many have sought shelter with relatives and friends outside the city, but thousands of others have crumbled into makeshift camps for internally displaced people.
Thanks Henk for the report, and now over to our other correspondent Marcus Fritz down in Pakistan with news regarding a kidnapping.
A kidnapped US-Canadian couple who held hostage in Pakistan for nearly 5 years has returned to Canada. American Caitlin Coleman and her Canadian husband Joshua Boyle were kidnapped while backpacking in Afghanistan in 2012 by the Taliban-allied Haqqani network. The Taliban and Haqqani network share the same goals of forcing out foreign troops and ousting the US-backed government in Kabul. But they are distinct organizations with separate command structures. The couple had 3 children while in captivity. One of the children was in poor health and had to be force-fed by their Pakistani rescuers. The journey home was pretty complicated by Boyle's refusal to board an American military aircraft in Pakistan, according to 2 US officials who spoke on condition of anonymity. Boyle instead asked to be flown to Canada. His request was accepted and the family travelled from Pakistan to London and then to Toronto, where they arrived late on the Friday night.
Thanks Marcus Fritz for the report, and now over to Gustav with today's sport news.
The NFL protests continue. What started as a protest against Donald Trump and racial inequality has just kept on going. Game week after game week, players, or in some occasions, whole teams, has found new ways to bring attention towards the problem. During the national anthem that is played before every game, players go down on their knees even though it is said you should stand up. Some players even stay in the dressing room during this time. Trump has answered to this himself on Twitter, saying that fans shouldn't condone players who doesn't stand for the national anthem or their country. This doesn't seem to have affected the players, who has continued with their protests. Donald Trump's adversary, Hillary Clinton, on the other hand, seems to stand behind the protests, saying that it isn't against the national anthem or the American flag in any way. It is simply a peaceful way of demonstrating against racism and injustice in our country. Back to you, Anton.
Thank you Gustav for the sport news, and now over to our correspondent William in Dublin.
Tens of thousands of people have marched through the streets of Dublin to call for a change to Ireland's strict abortion laws. A woman convicted of having an illegal termination can be jailed for up to 14 years. It's the first big rally since the Irish Prime Minister Leo Varadkar said an election could be held on the section of the state's constitution that ensures tight legal restrictions. The vote will take place in May or June next year. Abortion is currently illegal in the Republic of Ireland, except in the cases where the mother's life is in danger. However, women are allowed to travel abroad for termination, with around 4,000 coming to Britain every year for a legal abortion. Crowds of pro-choice campaigners march through the city up to the gates of the Irish Parliament, waving placards and chanting. A smaller march was also held outside the Irish Embassy in London. Anti-abortion activists also organized events all across the country. Countries around the world have, because of the strict law, been reacting. The United States, for instance, has described Ireland's abortion law as cruel and inhumane.
Thanks, William, for the report, and now over to Marcus Sunesson with today's weather report.
Welcome to today's weather report. We have, as October's expected to be, a lot of rain and wind, but not in the whole country. If we jump down to the west and south of Sweden, the winds as you would expect. A storm is rolling in from England and it's expected to hit the coast at Thursday with gusts up to 40 knots. Stockholm is having much better weather with a lot of unsteady overcast and degrees ranging from 5 to 10 Celsius. In the following week, they will receive a little bit of the storm from Gothenburg, but it will decrease heavily as it hits land. We can continue the weather broadcast with a special announcement. The storm Nate is going through the US right now and it will keep going for the next couple of days. Property and lives can be in danger. The storm made its first landfall in southeastern Louisiana near the mouth of the Mississippi River on Saturday evening. Nate has since weakened to a tropical depression but still poses a threat to lives and property. Heavy rain, isolated tornadoes and locally gusty winds being the primary impact moving forward.
Thanks, Marcus, and that was everything for today's news, and we will catch you next time on another TV15 broadcast.